Benjamin regained consciousness in the hospital after being bedridden for 6 long years. My husband bailed on me, spending the past 6 months showing affection to another woman. Diagnosed with ALS, my life's clock started ticking down. When Benjamin found out about my condition, the guy who had barely given me a second of his time got down on one knee by my hospital bed, his eyes red from crying. Benjamin totally lost it, but honestly, I didn't give a damn anymore. Just as I was about to blow out my birthday candles, Amelia called. Benjamin gave me that look, clearly wanting to hang up, but those two words flashing on the caller ID froze him right there. He glanced at me, his eyes steady and calm. Eva, I'll take this call. Can it wait till after I make a wish? Sorry, he responded, firm and decisive. The words almost slipped out, but he held back. Between Amelia and me, he always picked her. It's been 6 years since I married Benjamin. Our story? Totally cliche. Luck's never been on my side. I'm an orphan, once adopted by the Morgans, only to get kicked out because of Amelia. When I first started my job, tagging along with my boss to a standard business dinner nearly turned me into a pawn for power and favors. The boss hinted I should follow the unspoken rules of the other company. Young and headstrong, I fought back hard, and those 2 slaps he gave me left my ears ringing. If Benjamin hadn't shown up out of nowhere, I might have been gone that night. Love at first sight? Probably just a quick heartbeat, then infatuation and blind spots. Thinking back, Amelia and I are like 5 or 6 points alike. Maybe that's why Benjamin and I rushed into marriage. Took 6 years for me to slowly earn his heart. But it wasn't until Amelia woke up from her coma that I realized all my efforts were pointless. She found him, so he couldn't spare even a minute for me to make a birthday wish. I didn't blow out the already lit candles. Through the flickering light, I caught a faint smile on Benjamin's face, like he was calming the person on the other end of the call. We weren't far, so I could hear his words loud and clear. Fell down. How could you be so careless during rehab? Yeah, I got it. I'll come over. After ending the call, he walked towards me, his eyes showing a hint of doubt. Ava, I need to step out for a bit. Knowing what was up, I asked, Where are you heading? He didn't say, just brushed a stray hair off my cheek and gave a light kiss. Maybe because he'd been on the balcony too long, the night breeze hit him right, making me step back. Something came up. You should hit the sack early. Oh, right, the gift's in the bedroom. I grabbed his arm. I haven't made a wish yet. I'll make it up to you next time. But I want to do it today now. Benjamin paused, slowly turning around. His brows knitted as he looked at me. Eva, don't be so stubborn. I scoffed. In such a rush to see Amelia? He glanced at me, slightly irritated. You don't always have to target Amelia. I turned away, feeling a bit teary-eyed. You're always so biased. Benjamin walked out without another word, leaving his retreating figure behind. The candle burned down. The cream was sweet, but I tasted bitterness lingering. I never thought I'd get a WeChat message from Benjamin in the dead of night. He's got this habit, ever since we tied the knot. He always texts before coming home, no matter where he's at. My sleep's already shaky, and my phone's almost never on silent. Before, no matter how late, when he was heading home, I'd jump out of bed to whip up some hot noodles or dumplings for him. Usually he'd just be back from a biz dinner or a trip. Even when he was beat, I felt happy knowing my guy was right there. But the scene before me snapped me back to reality. Unlike his usual texts, this time it was a pic. In the photo, Amelia was grinning sweetly, looking down at Benjamin, who wasn't facing the camera. Benjamin was bent over, massaging Amelia's legs with such focus. She looked well taken care of. You couldn't tell she'd been a vegetable for 6 years. Then a little note popped up on the phone. Benjamin's dumplings are delicious. Looking at that plain bowl of dumplings in the photo, my nails dug into my skin. Benjamin can't cook. Didn't I teach him those dumplings? He used the kindness I showed him on another woman. Amelia didn't need to say much. One pic said it all. They looked like a loving couple. But I wasn't about to let Amelia win that easily. Feelings don't just disappear overnight. They build up from disappointments. I didn't know about Benjamin and Amelia's past until half a year ago when I uncovered the whole truth. I felt let down and kept questioning everything. Benjamin seemed too straight, so I thought he still had me in his heart. But how strong is first love? A is always A and B can be anyone. Amelia is A and I'm just B. The living room clock struck 3:30 a.m. As expected, Benjamin didn't come back. I laughed at myself. Ava, why are you still waiting? I cleared the leftover cake from the table and headed upstairs. Suddenly, my legs gave out, and I tumbled down the stairs without warning. The cold floor jolted me back to that chilly morning half a year ago. During the first week after Amelia woke up, Benjamin and I went into a cold war like never before. My emotions were all over the place. My sleep was messed up, and my body started acting weird. I thought it was just a minor issue, but nope. I was diagnosed with ALS. My body would slowly numb until I was stuck in bed like a veggie. If I'm lucky, maybe 2 or 3 more years, truly living up to the saying, good people don't live long. When dawn broke, Benjamin came back. He hugged me quietly from behind. The warmth on my waist reminded me of how he massaged Amelia's legs. A flutter in my stomach made me twist and struggle. Benjamin's grip tightened suddenly. His voice was faint, like mist around a distant mountain. Did I wake you? No, I've always had trouble sleeping. Why weren't you sleeping earlier? I didn't answer, and his hands loosened. We both knew why. After a long silence, Benjamin was the first to speak. Want wonton for breakfast? I'll make it. There was a chill in my voice. No, looking at wonton lately makes me nauseous. Benjamin's voice came from behind, sounding tired. Eva, are you still sulking? You're overthinking it. As I stood to leave, he grabbed my arm. Eva, the person I married is you. But is the person you love me? I tried to speak, but nothing came out. After those intense arguments and the Cold War half a year ago, we'd been avoiding mentioning Amelia, keeping a fragile balance. For the first time, I saw Benjamin compromise and show vulnerability, even if it was because of another woman. My rational side told me to leave him, but I couldn't. 6 years together made it hard to let go. But now I felt so exhausted. We were both holding our breath, struggling to swallow our words. After a moment, I softly replied, I know. Benjamin looked at me, no emotion in his eyes. He suddenly pulled me close and kissed me passionately. I didn't respond like I used to. He bit my tongue lightly, annoyed. Sorry I didn't help you blow out the candles or cut the cake yesterday. My bad. Let's find another time to make it up. I turned away. No need to bother. No bother at all. When it came to Amelia, he always mixed criticism with affection. He held me for a bit before heading to the bathroom. Out of habit, I grabbed his jacket and a necklace fell out. A moon-shaped pendant. I hesitated, knowing it belonged to Amelia. Before I left the Morgan house, I saw her wear it often. She hadn't changed, still playing her little tricks. Just like before, using every sneaky move to please me, then bullying me. I tossed the necklace into the sink. Just looking at it made my eyes sting. After breakfast, Benjamin rushed off to the office. I changed my clothes and got ready to go out too. I'd been working at a design company for 4 years, and today was my last day. My illness was progressing unpredictably, could flare up next month or maybe next year. Although the company wasn't big, the boss and colleagues were super chill. So when they invited me to the last team building event next week, I said yes. On the event day, the boss chose a famous local Cantonese restaurant for dinner. This was a spot Benjamin and I used to hit up often. Maybe fate was playing a hand. I saw Benjamin and Amelia there. My husband of 6 years was attentively helping another woman with her meal. Amelia, once a pure and innocent girl, had turned into a delicate and sickly beauty. I tried to pretend not to see them, but Amelia caught my eye. Is that Eva? Her voice wasn't exactly soft, and both my colleagues and Benjamin turned to look at me. A coworker asked, Is she your friend? I pressed my lips together. No, you two go ahead. I'll join you in a bit. I walked over, and Amelia feigned surprise. Eva, what a coincidence. Long time no see. You here to eat too? Seeing me stay silent, she glanced between Benjamin and me before continuing. But I remember you don't like Cantonese food. This place is great. We used to come here often with Benjamin. Let me recommend some dishes on the table. They're all good. Amelia casually chatted about their past together. I glanced at the dishes on the table, totally familiar since Benjamin loved ordering them. Benjamin paused, looking at me. You don't like Cantonese food? I didn't deny it. Yeah, I don't. I prefer spicy Sichuan over the mellow Cantonese flavors. When we first got married, I always catered to his taste without realizing it. Over time, he thought I loved it too, but he never asked directly. Turns out Amelia digs it too. I looked at him, my gaze steady. I really don't like it. Benjamin's face stiffened, unsure of what to say. Amelia smiled triumphantly, teasing Benjamin. Benjamin, you've been married for 6 years, right? How come you don't understand your wife at all? Benjamin looked at me and pursed his lips. I interrupted him. You guys enjoy your meal. I skipped dinner and found an excuse to leave. As I walked away, I saw the conflicted and hesitant look on Benjamin's face. My nose tingled a bit, and my heart felt exposed to the wind. It hurt like hell. Suddenly, heavy rain started on my way home. Late autumn rains bring a chill. I was already sensitive to the cold, and my immune system was shot from being sick. Within hours of getting home, I had a fever. I lay on the bed, dazed, dreaming of some nasty past events. I was adopted by the Morgan family at 6, becoming Amelia's supposed younger sister. Life with the Morgans wasn't great. The adoption wasn't out of love or hope. It was purely to protect Amelia from disaster. Amelia had been frail and sickly since childhood. Her superstitious mother consulted a local master who advised finding a girl of the same age with a similar fate to keep by Amelia's side, tricking evil spirits and avoiding misfortune. The Morgans found me at a nearby orphanage and brought me home. On my first day, Amelia's mother excitedly said, "Great, now Amelia can grow up healthy and well." From a young age, Amelia's mother told me, "Whenever there's trouble, you must stand in front of Amelia. If there's danger, shield her. If anyone bullies Amelia, defend her. Be grateful." After the incident with Amelia, the Morgans didn't blame the responsible driver or Amelia's drunken driving. Instead, they questioned why I hadn't protected Amelia from the disaster. I was drenched in cold sweat. It was only after waking up from the dream that I realized it was all in the past. Ava, you've long overcome this, I told myself. Illness makes people feel especially vulnerable. In the middle of the night, Benjamin's voice dragged me out of my memories again. Ava? I didn't have the strength to respond. Benjamin came over, his slightly cool palm touching my forehead. Eva, you've got a fever. I took some medicine. You're burning up. Get up and go to the hospital. His tone was kinda anxious. I snuggled into the blanket. I'm not going. Don't be stubborn. You know I hate hospitals. Benjamin fell silent, looking somewhat annoyed. I'm really fine. The fever's down a lot. He glanced at the scattered medicine bottles on the bedside table. I'd torn the packaging. It's just cold medicine, I lied. He sighed. You shouldn't mix meds like that. You'll feel better soon. Why didn't you call me? My voice was soft. Aren't you with Amelia? He tucked the blanket around me, sounding a bit unhappy. Why do you keep mentioning her lately, Ava? Amelia won't change our relationship. What relationship do we have now? Of course we're married. Suddenly I asked, do you remember the wish you made to me on our 3rd wedding anniversary? Benjamin looked confused. He didn't remember. It was just something you said back then. You promised me we'd never divorce. If Amelia hadn't had that accident, would you have married her? He looked at me for a bit and replied lightly, Eva, that hypothetical scenario is meaningless. The atmosphere hit rock bottom again. I turned away, wrapping the blanket tightly around me, feeling like a cord in my heart had been completely severed. I think I know the answer. Ever since I found out about Benjamin's past with Amelia, I've been scared, but 6 years of marriage still gave me some confidence. I consoled myself. Everyone has a past. It's just that Benjamin's past involves Amelia. But I still overestimated myself. Maybe too many disappointments piled up. Now I wasn't as upset anymore. This flu hit hard, dragging me down for over a week. Maybe out of guilt, Benjamin stayed home with me all week. Occasionally, I'd hear him talking to Amelia on the phone, though he tried to keep me out of it as much as possible. Even when he was beside me, he hadn't fully let go of Amelia. The weather wasn't great either, with a rare sunny day. I was sunbathing in the garden, feeling like spring was just around the corner. Suddenly, I got curious. Benjamin, let's go on another trip in the spring. He hesitated for 2 seconds. Let's go next year. I might be pretty busy in the coming months. My smile faded. I forgot. It's a critical time for Amelia's rehab. Benjamin has to be there for her, but will I make it to next spring? My condition's worsening, and the episodes are getting more frequent. I spent almost the whole day sitting in a chair, trying not to let him notice anything unusual. Benjamin handed me a glass of grapefruit juice. I remember you used to hate spring the most. Why do you always want to travel in the spring after we got married? I tilted my head back, shielding my eyes from the bright sunlight. Before meeting Benjamin, I genuinely hated spring. I remember being abandoned at the orphanage in spring. My dad said he was going to buy me cotton candy from across the street, but he never came back. Spring was also when the Morgans adopted me. And again, spring was when they kicked me out. Seems like all my bad luck starts in spring. I looked at him with a smile, my gaze distant. But I met you in the spring. I saw something thawing in Benjamin's eyes. Those eyes that always seemed emotionless were now looking at me with warmth and intensity, like the warm and bright sun today. Benjamin lowered his head and kissed me gently. We couldn't see each other's expressions clearly as we held each other. In that moment, a thought flashed through my mind. I whispered in his ear, Benjamin, can you love me a little more? It's been so long since we were this calm and peaceful together. In a daze, it felt like we traveled back to the first 2 years of our marriage. He hugged me tighter, his voice slightly trembling. Okay. I raised the corners of my mouth. Will you feel more pain when I'm gone? I'm not that generous. I want you to be haunted by my departure in your dreams at midnight, whether you can't forget or can't let go. This time, it's your turn to watch me leave you countless times. In the blink of an eye, it was Benjamin's grandfather's birthday. We got back super early. He helped me out of the car. I'd sprained my foot falling during a flare-up 2 days ago. How did you mess it up so bad? I replied casually. Just twisted a ligament. He frowned slightly. Go back to your room and rest. We'll talk later tonight. I didn't refuse. My legs couldn't hold me up anymore. He didn't come to see me that night. Many people did, but he must have been busy. A servant helped me down the stairs. Through the crowd, I saw Benjamin and Amelia at the door. Amelia, in a white dress, sat in a wheelchair greeting guests, while Benjamin leaned in to listen to her. He had a relaxed smile, and they looked like a tight-knit couple. In contrast, I, the rightful wife, felt like an outsider. I wanted to escape, but I walked over. Benjamin, I called behind him. He stood up straight, a hint of surprise in his eyes, as if he didn't expect me to show up suddenly. He took my arm from the servant. Is your foot not hurting anymore? Much better. Benjamin stared at me, his hand tightening on my waist. The people chatting and laughing fell silent when they saw me. Miss Morgan? A polite yet distant address. It's Miss Morgan, not Mrs. Waters. Even though everyone knows about my marriage to Benjamin, I remember you're somewhat like Amelia's sister, right? I smiled politely. I did live in the Morgan household. Someone else chimed in. If you're feeling unwell, you can rest for a while. Having Benjamin and Amelia here is enough. I turned to look at Benjamin. Is that so? He took a long time to respond, so long that I wanted to break free from his grip. Sensing my movement, he tightened his hold around my waist. Benjamin looked up at the person opposite, his tone chilly. No. The other person awkwardly averted their gaze. Amelia's smile froze on her face. She lowered her hand, her expression turning sour. I gave her a slight smile, deliberately ignoring the resentment and jealousy in her eyes. Seeing the awkward atmosphere, someone quickly changed the topic. Everything went back to normal. The little incident seemed like it never happened. They chatted as if nothing occurred, naturally excluding me. No harsh or malicious words, just conveyed through looks, attitudes, and actions. You don't deserve to stand by Benjamin's side. You should obediently make way for Amelia. After the banquet ended, Benjamin was supposed to go home with me. Amelia pretended to feel unwell. He hesitated, looking at me. The night wind scattered my words a bit. Go ahead. He leaned in. I'll be back soon. I smiled indifferently. I'd used the same tactic on Benjamin before. How did he respond back then? I lay in bed, and Benjamin looked at me with furrowed brows. saying, "Ava, things come in threes." Amelia always seemed to innocently and conveniently steal Benjamin away from me. He could never see through Amelia's poor acting skills. Subconsciously, he always believed in Amelia. Benjamin didn't come back that night. In the early hours of the morning, I got a call from him. He was silent and I could hear his breathing. "Why aren't you speaking?" "Eva, I won't be coming back tonight." "Is she in serious condition?" Benjamin sounded surprised, like he didn't expect me to ask about Amelia. "Amelia had an allergic reaction to something, just came out of the emergency room, still receiving fluids." My tone was sharp. "Is the hospital short on doctors and nurses? Or is it that the Morgans can't afford to hire a caregiver?" Benjamin's voice sounded weary. "Eva, she had an incident at the Waters house." "I see." He didn't say anything else. Such forced reasons. I closed my eyes. "Do as you please." I hung up the phone, facing a sleepless night. 3 days after going abroad, Benjamin returned home looking tired. As he walked in, I was sitting on the sofa in the living room, organizing photos from our past trips, 3 full albums. I always loved capturing every moment we spent together with my camera. I looked at him, wearing the same suit jacket from 3 days ago, his shirt slightly wrinkled. It seemed he'd been diligently taking care of Amelia at the hospital these past 3 days. We exchanged a wordless glance. I lowered my gaze. "You're back." "Yeah." That evening, the brief tension seemed to dissipate as if nothing happened. No one mentioned Amelia again, but some wounds couldn't just heal by ignoring them. I poured a glass of water for him, and he glanced at the photos on the table. Looking at old pictures again just felt like taking them out and flipping through. Suddenly, I spoke up. "I've thought of my birthday wish. What is it? You owe me from 2 months ago? Have you forgotten?" Benjamin paused for 2 seconds, then stared at me. "I haven't forgotten." "The next month, accompany me on a trip again. I'll be very busy during this time." "Didn't you say you'd only get busy after a while?" Benjamin avoided my gaze. I suddenly realized it wasn't about work. It had to be about keeping Amelia busy. "Breaking promises again?" I probed angrily. "Is it about work or—" He took a deep breath. "All right, Eva. There will be plenty of time to travel in the future. These few months won't make a difference." My thoughts drifted. But I didn't have much time left soon. I'd only be able to sit in a wheelchair or lie in bed. My throat felt dry. "You can't spare even a week." His voice softened. "Wait for me a few months." I whispered, "Understood. You always do this, making me wait time and time again." Benjamin knew I was upset and tried to calm me by lightly kissing the corner of my mouth. "Eva, I have to go abroad for a few months." "For what purpose?" He didn't answer immediately, instead continued kissing me. After a while, slightly out of breath, he replied, "There's hope for Amelia's leg rehab over there. I've arranged contact with a specialist and need to meet them in person." I pushed him away. The earlier kiss wasn't an apology. It was a request. "Benjamin, do you still remember that I'm your wife?" His tone was earnest. "This is the last time." I stared at him as his disheveled bangs covered his eyes, looking down. After a long silence, I pondered many things. After 6 years, the time had come for the final answer. Fine, nothing mattered anymore. The time for my departure had arrived. Benjamin hurriedly left with Amelia. Even their luggage was packed by his assistant upon their return. He only came back hastily to see me one last time before turning and leaving. Tears still couldn't be contained. In the end, all you left me with was your back. So this is what it feels like to give up. Benjamin didn't know, before they left, Amelia had come to see me. "Why are you here?" I held the door, not intending to let her in. She sat in the wheelchair, smiling at me, her face full of victorious joy. "Eva, won't you invite me in for a seat?" Amelia called out affectionately, yet she was still so fake. "There's no one else here. You don't need to pretend in front of me. Furthermore, I don't need to welcome uninvited guests." Amelia's gaze fell on me. "What if I told you Benjamin sent me here?" I didn't respond. After she woke up, we'd met only a few times. But every time, her words revolved around Benjamin. Amelia's smile remained unchanged. I heard Benjamin doesn't usually come home much. It must be pretty lonely living in such a big house all by yourself. Speaking of which, if it weren't for the car accident 6 years ago, I should have been the mistress of this house. Leaning against the door, I calmly spoke. It's a pity, but the fact remains that I am the mistress of this house. Amelia's smile froze on her face. It's a pity, but the fact remains that I am the one standing here today. As long as I don't divorce Benjamin, you won't step foot through this door. After all, it's always the third party that people despise. A hint of resentment flashed across Amelia's face, but quickly faded. And so what? You? I cut her off, leaning in close and speaking coldly. You're flustered. What? I also smiled at her. I said, you're flustered. Amelia, you don't need to be fake, and you don't need to show off in front of me. If you were 100% sure, you wouldn't be here today. Amelia's expression darkened briefly, but swiftly returned to normal. The one who isn't loved is the third party. Wait and see, Ava. This time I will win. Indeed, I wouldn't win. But from the moment I decided to completely give up on Benjamin, I wouldn't lose either. I just couldn't stand the sight of Amelia's relaxed, confident face. After Benjamin and Amelia went abroad, he'd message me every day. Due to the time difference, he often messaged me in the middle of the night. I saw every message but never replied once. He never called me, knowing I was pissed. It was the same as before. Benjamin was never good at coaxing people. No, he just wasn't good at coaxing me. He might still be waiting for me to make the first move, just like before. The night before he left, I couldn't sleep and sat on the balcony, feeling the cold wind blow all night. I still remembered when Benjamin first decided to marry me, almost everyone he knew didn't approve. No wedding, no guests, no blessings. I didn't fit into their circle, but Benjamin introduced me to everyone without hesitation, shielding me from all the gossip, giving me all his care and respect. He was quiet and reserved, far from being a romantic person, but he knew how to occasionally create small surprises in our married life. He was like a shooting star that brightened up my almost dim 22 years of life. At least before Amelia woke up. Unfortunately, stars only briefly pass through my world. Those who have to leave can't be forced to stay. I left the home we'd lived in for 6 years. On the day of departure, the weather was fine, a bright sunny day. I didn't take anything, just my ID documents. The ring I'd worn for 6 years lay on the bedside table along with the divorce agreement. Benjamin would see it at a glance. When it came time to sign, I didn't think much. Just make the final decision to leave cleanly. I think, in this lifetime, we probably won't meet again. It's been 10 days since arriving abroad. After settling Amelia, Benjamin went to the overseas branch of his company. In fact, he didn't really deceive me. In the past 6 months, the company's overseas business expansion meant that even without Amelia's rehab, he'd have to go abroad for a while. Benjamin dealt with his work absent-mindedly, occasionally glancing at his phone. These past 2 days, his eyelids kept twitching. Almost 10 days, and Eva hasn't contacted him once, nor replied to his WeChat messages. This wasn't right. In the past, even if they quarreled, the silent treatment wouldn't last more than 5 days. When Eva settled down, she'd, just like before, come to him to make amends. And he'd follow the steps Eva laid out to reconcile. This out-of-the-ordinary behavior from Eva started to make him feel uneasy and, at the same time, a bit baffled. Benjamin had his assistant in the countryside check up on Eva's recent activities. Leaving? What does that even mean? Benjamin didn't react immediately. The housekeeper auntie went to tidy up and found his wife's wedding ring on the bedside table. And what else? A divorce agreement. Benjamin stood there, frozen. No way, how could Eva even think about divorcing me? He quickly booked the earliest flight back home. The room looked unchanged, as if Eva's warmth was still wrapped in the blanket. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, except for that wedding ring and the divorce papers. Nah, Eva's just giving me the silent treatment, Benjamin thought. He dialed Eva's number, but only heard the endless voicemail prompt. At 29 years old, he'd never felt so lost. He searched everywhere Eva might have gone, but found nothing. A real panic about losing Eva started to spread inside him. Hey, sir, when cleaning out the closet the other day, I found an unfinished bottle of medicine and a few photos in one of Madame's clothes. This medicine doesn't look like our usual stuff at home. Benjamin took the bottle from the housekeeper, setting the photos aside. For some reason, his unease kept growing. He called his friend Nicholas at First Hospital. Lirazole? Isn't that a common drug for treating ALS? Benjamin, who's using this drug you mentioned? This disease is way more painful than others. Benjamin's face went blank, not responding for a moment. He remembered all of Eva's odd behaviors over the past 6 months. Her thin figure, the burden in her eyes, even her unusual falls. The bottle in his hand was now misshapen from his grip, and he trembled as he spoke. It's Eva. There was silence on the other end for a long time. Benjamin, there's an expert in this field at Second Hospital. Let me contact them for you. Don't be too pessimistic. Even though this disease can't be cured, try to extend the remaining time as much as possible. Benjamin was somewhat stunned, his breath almost stopping. He felt like he couldn't grasp Nicholas's words. His entire body felt drained of strength, slumping onto the bed. But now, he didn't even know where Eva was. Benjamin's nose suddenly felt a bit sour. His hand touched the photos on the bedside table, and he absent-mindedly picked them up. 6 years of marriage, 6 photos in total. Every anniversary, they'd take a photo like this as a sort of ritual. Later, Eva had neatly hung all 6 photos on the wall above the bed, but now those photos were clearly gathering dust, and he had no idea when Eva had silently taken them down. He flipped the photos over, his hand pausing. Each photo had Eva's neat handwriting on the back, something he never noticed before. First year, I finally have a home, and it turns out I can be this happy too. Second year, spring has arrived, and Benjamin took me to many places I wanted to go. I think I'm starting to like spring. Third year, Benjamin asked me what wish I had, and I said I hope we don't get divorced. I want to be with him forever. Fourth year, I want a baby. One that's a mix of him and me, but Benjamin always says there's no rush. That's fine. Let's wait until we both stabilize our careers for a few more years. Fifth year, I think we can continue to be happy forever. Sixth year, Amelia woke up. Benjamin read through Eva's words slowly, word by word. For a long time, his eyes moistened, his body trembling uncontrollably. He should have known earlier. He should have known. The reason for Eva's increasing silence over the past 6 months. Eva, where are you? He was too confident and too arrogant, thinking that Eva would never leave him. His voice choked up, and suddenly he thought of someone. Mia, the only friend Eva had more private contact with. He dialed her number, urgently speaking. I'm Benjamin. I'm looking for Eva. Why are you calling me if you're looking for Eva? Don't you know where your own wife is? We had a little disagreement, and now I can't find her. Mia laughed disdainfully. Are you sure it was just a little disagreement? Have some shame. Don't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. If you can't let go of your first love, then stop bothering Eva. It's not like that. His defense was weak and pale. If it's not like that, then why have you been running to the hospital every day after she woke up? Has Eva seen you more in this past half year than Amelia has in total? Benjamin was speechless. Mia sarcastically added, Don't come up with so many excuses, Benjamin. Stop pretending to be deeply in love. If you had even an ounce of consideration for Eva's feelings, you wouldn't have anything to do with Amelia. If you two are truly clean, forget about Amelia being crippled. Even if she died, it wouldn't concern you. Benjamin felt a growing sense of anxiety that Eva would never turn back. I'll explain things to Eva myself. Where is she? Is this your attitude when asking for help? Mia was about to hang up the phone, and Benjamin panicked, speaking urgently. Please, I beg you, tell me where Eva is. She's seriously ill. Can't be delayed. I know she may not want to see me now. Please help me tell Eva. I was wrong. Ask her to come back home. I'll wait for her. Mia still insisted she didn't know where Eva was. I don't know where Eva is. All I know is that since she chose to leave, she wanted to be far away from you. If you have time to think about how to disturb Eva, why don't you go ask the Morgan family first? Ask Amelia. Ask them what they did to Eva. Benjamin choked up. What could the Morgan family have done to Eva? He only knew Eva had been adopted by the Morgan family, but he never delved deeper into Eva's past. In an instant, many things he had previously overlooked seemed to surface. He had someone thoroughly investigate Eva's history. He didn't know how he ended up flipping to the last page of the report. A surge of bitterness rose in Benjamin's throat, overturning everything on the table. No wonder, no wonder! The Morgan family had never treated Eva well. It seemed like her existence was only for someone else. He had initially thought Eva was just concerned about his past with Amelia, even blamed her for being willful. What did Eva feel every time he chose to be with Amelia, chose to believe Amelia? She must have been very disappointed in him, so disappointed that she didn't even want to tell him she was sick. Clearly, she feared facing death the most, yet she chose to bear it all alone. Benjamin harshly slapped himself twice. What had he done? Benjamin went abroad to see Amelia. "You're here, Benjamin! Why didn't you say you were coming back to the country?" Benjamin stared at her, his eyes bloodshot. "Have you privately contacted Eva?" Amelia's smile froze. "Why are you suddenly asking about this?" Benjamin asked. "What have you said to Eva? Just catching up, that's all?" Veins popped on Benjamin's forehead as he pressed closer. "Amelia, did you really treat Eva like your sister?" Amelia's expression stiffened, her smile forced. "What do you mean, Benjamin? I did indeed treat her like my own sister, but you also saw that she doesn't care about the Morgan family. Is that so?" Benjamin threw a thick stack of documents in front of Amelia. Amelia's face grew paler as she hastily flipped the roll through the papers. "No, it's not like that. All of this is fake. Eva forged it to deceive you. Don't let her deceive you. The things written here, I personally investigated them." Amelia stared at him, her face turning a bit gray. "And? What about it? If it weren't for the Morgan family bringing her back from the orphanage, giving her a meal to eat, she might not have even survived till today." She grabbed Benjamin. "Is it wrong for me to fight for my own happiness? Benjamin, I truly like you. We were supposed to be together. That thing Eva, who was born to a mother without a father's care, what right does she have to compete with me?" Amelia's bitter words pierced Benjamin's heart like sharp needles. Rage consumed Benjamin. He pushed Amelia away with all his might. Benjamin looked at her coldly. "I found out something else. You were already involved with another senior before breaking up with me, weren't you?" Amelia was speechless. "You?" Amelia was speechless. She suddenly laughed. "Are you so perfect? If you truly loved Eva so firmly, you would have noticed these things already. Can you say you never wavered for a moment?" Benjamin suddenly recalled Mia's words. She was right. He wasn't entirely innocent. Benjamin's voice was hoarse, his eyes bloodshot. "You're right, guilty, damned, it's all on us." Amelia suddenly lunged at him like a madwoman, then uncontrollably fell to the ground. The boiling water from the nearby kettle spilled all over her. A sharp scream pierced through the entire ward. Nurses rushed in, and Benjamin left without looking back. He didn't intend to let the Morgan family off so easily. A friend called to advise, "Are you really going to make things difficult for everyone because of Eva?" He didn't listen. As if this could redeem and save. In less than a year, the Morgan family went bankrupt. Now they were the universally condemned scapegoats. Amelia's legs, due to another accident, could no longer support her. She kneeled in the rain crying, begging Benjamin. "Benjamin, I was wrong. I apologize to you, to Eva. Save me, spare the Morgan family." Her father tried to save the company from crisis, wanting Amelia to marry a 50-year-old real estate tycoon. That real estate tycoon was embroiled in several sex scandal incidents. His previous wife died under unsavory circumstances. Looking down on her, Benjamin said, "This ending suits you perfectly. Eva, would you be relieved?" I returned to Z-City. This is where I was born, my true hometown. I contacted Mia. She's probably the only person in this world I want to have contact with now. We, in a way, are destined. We both came out of the same orphanage, once worked in the same company. We accidentally found out about this while working and became friends who could talk about anything. Later, she got married and returned to Z-City. She was luckier than me. She met a very good adoptive family. Her adoptive parents loved her very much. She married a good man. Her husband entered politics and gained some power. That's why Benjamin couldn't find me during this time. I told Mia about my illness. She was angry and heartbroken, crying all night holding me. "Why did you hide it from me for so long?" I wiped away her tears. I guess I didn't want the only person I still cared about to be sad and worried for me. That would make me sadder than the illness itself. Mia accompanied me in Z City for nearly a year. My condition deteriorated faster than I had imagined. By the end of that autumn and the beginning of winter, my limbs were completely paralyzed, and I could only lie in bed all day. I thought I would never see that person again in my life, but unexpectedly, we met for the last time. Benjamin found me. One early morning, I heard Mia's angry voice at the door. Me. One early morning, I heard Mia's angry voice at the door. How dare you show your face here? My wife is inside. Benjamin's voice sounded pained and weary. Eva has nothing to do with you anymore. Get lost. You're not welcome here. I'm here to take Eva home. Can't you understand human language? Do I have to get someone to kick you out? Benjamin's face looked a bit unbearable, but he still stood at the door, unmoving. I'll take Eva and leave. You. Hearing his voice again, I remained calm. Mia, let him in. Benjamin, at this point, why be so stubborn when clearly nothing can be salvaged? He visibly hesitated upon seeing me. Well, I must look quite terrible now. He stumbled towards me, a look of helplessness on his face that I had never seen before. Benjamin, with red, tear-filled eyes, knelt by my bedside, then held my hand tightly and buried his head. I felt the dampness in his palm and heard his unfiltered sobs. Eva, I was wrong. Please don't leave me. Come back home with me. No, I answered without hesitation. Eva, I'm sorry. I know everything now. Is that so? Benjamin's gaze on me was intense and focused. Didn't you say you wanted to go see the snow in Hokkaido? Get well, I'll take you. I forced a smile. But Benjamin, I don't care anymore. I don't care how nice you are to me now. I don't care about your belated affection. I once tried to find any remnants of your love for me and you, but now seeing you look at me with eyes full of me, I just don't care anymore because I don't love you anymore. Eva, let me stay and take care of you. No need. Please leave. Eva, we are husband and wife, I said coldly. I'll say it again. No need. You've seen the divorce agreement, right? Benjamin's face fell. He lowered his head. I don't agree. If you want me to leave in peace, then sign it. Benjamin hesitated, his eyes filled with pain. Do you remember you owe me a birthday wish? I only have one wish now. Benjamin laughed self-deprecatingly. Eva, do you hate me that much? I don't hate you. Without love, there is naturally no hate. Fine. Benjamin's tone was earnest. I promise you. But let me stay, Eva. I just want to be with you. Please, leave. Mia couldn't bear it and suddenly spoke up. Eva has let you go. Why are you still shamelessly lingering here? Don't you sincerely want Eva to recover properly? Benjamin's face paled, and I turned away, refusing to look at him anymore. I could sense that my cold expression was piercing him, but I didn't care. He forced a smile. All right, I'll leave first. You focus on getting better. I stopped him. This will be the last time you break your promise, right? The figure in front of me stiffened, and in a soft voice, he said, I won't. After Benjamin left, Mia took me to another place that same day. Before long, my condition deteriorated even further. Swallowing became difficult, and speaking was a struggle. Mia came to my bedside to feed me, looking at me with aching eyes. Eva, why don't we listen to the doctor and consider a feeding tube later on? No, Mia. Don't do any invasive treatments for me, Mia cried. But, promise me. She turned her face away, reluctantly nodding. Mia continued to massage my hands and feet as usual, although at this point it seemed futile for me. After the massage, Mia tucked me in. I looked at her, feeling a tinge of bitterness. Mia, I want to see our old photos. Mia quickly brought the photos, neatly arranged in 2 large albums. We were lying side by side. Talking about the past was all about nostalgia. I strained to turn my head to look at her. I'm sorry, Mia. We promised to travel the world together, and now I can't keep that promise. And thank you, Mia broke down in tears, hugging me tightly. The pain was that we were both powerless. Mia closed the albums, looking at me with sadness. Eva, is there anywhere you still want to go? I gazed at the sunset outside, pondering for a moment. it's truly beautiful. I managed a faint smile. Let's go to Kunming. They say it feels like spring all year round there. I won't make it to the next spring, so I wanted to see spring one last time. Even though winter had arrived, the weather in Kunming was still relatively warm during the day. I enjoyed the feeling of the sun shining warmly on my body. At first, we rented a short-term homestay near Diangxi Lake. Every morning, Mia would push me to the park to see the red-billed seagulls. These seagulls were not afraid of people, perhaps because I visited so frequently. Occasionally, a few seagulls would land by my feet and affectionately nuzzle me. Mia, it wouldn't be bad to be a seagull. Watching the seagulls flying in the sky, I remembered my decision to have my ashes scattered in the sea, which I had instructed Mia to carry out. Mia, I regret it. I actually fear loneliness quite a bit. So after I'm gone, find a grave to bury me in. That way, I could have some company beside me. Mia didn't speak for a long time, but I heard the choked up sound behind me. Okay. I had Mia take a few photos of me. During this time, I had lost a lot of weight. In the pictures, I sat in a wheelchair surrounded by many seagulls. My face seemed more animated. I recalled all the places we had visited in Kunming. Every scenery was within sight. Mia, it's truly wonderful to be alive. 2 months later, I was completely unable to speak, and breathing was becoming increasingly difficult. We moved out of the homestay. At the end of January in the new year, I passed away due to respiratory failure, only one step away from the true spring. When Benjamin heard about Eva's news again, he was once again too late. He only saw the cold tombstone. Mia hated him to the core. Did Ava leave any last words? Mia clenched her fingers, then suddenly grabbed his collar, her eyes filled with icy fury. What do you want to hear? How wrong she felt, how sad, how resentful, or do you want to hear about how much she suffered in her final days? Too bad, Benjamin. When Eva left, she couldn't speak at all. Every word from Mia felt like a knife carving into Benjamin's heart. He opened his mouth but couldn't make a sound. Benjamin lowered his head, feeling difficulty in breathing, the wind stinging his eyes. It would be good to go with Eva like this. Mia's grip loosened, turned away, her body tense. Benjamin, Eva originally wanted to be buried in the sea. Do you know why she changed her mind? Mia's voice was soft. Eva said she was afraid of loneliness. You never truly let Eva into your world. Mia's words felt like the final judgment upon Benjamin. He remembered the countless nights over the 6 years of marriage when Eva sat under the light waiting for his return. He recalled the many times he left her behind, her suddenly dim eyes, the last look she gave him before going abroad. It seemed like despair, like a farewell. Tears were definitely salty, but why did they taste so bitter in his mouth? Upon returning home, he took out the divorce agreement he had kept for so long. Eva's writing was clean and decisive, as if without hesitation. Trembling, he signed his name. 3 months after Eva left, one day while passing by a park not far from home, he encountered an elderly couple Eva had helped before. The old lady asked eagerly about Eva. He looked dazed, very softly replied, Eva? She went on a trip. The old lady seemed disappointed. Is that so? Well, when Eva comes back, can you ask her when she'll bring me the osmanthus cake we agreed on last time? Benjamin could barely hold back and could only escape in embarrassment. Back home, immense sorrow and regret swept over him like a raging flood once again. He still couldn't accept Eva's departure. Benjamin fell seriously ill. When his assistant noticed Benjamin hadn't been to the office for 4 days, they contacted Benjamin's friend. Upon opening the door, Benjamin was leaning near the entrance. His face was pale, covered in cold sweat. Nicholas was shocked and hurried over to help the person on the floor, but Benjamin's body temperature made him recoil his hand. His shirt was soaked through with sweat, and it was unclear how long he had been sitting there on the floor. Nicholas cautiously checked for breath near Benjamin's nose. Thankfully, he was still breathing. Benjamin, why aren't you going to the hospital with a fever? Are you just waiting here to die? Benjamin, in a daze from the fever, asked. Eva, you're back? Nicholas, exasperated, said, Don't lose it now. Benjamin, he persistently said, Ava, is the ginger soup ready? Every time I have a fever, you always make it for me. Nicholas, at his wit's end, said, Get a grip. Eva has been gone for 3 months. Benjamin seemed to finally understand and murmured, I forgot. You didn't want me a long time ago." He suddenly lay on the ground, unable to speak through his tears. Nicholas, seeing his friend's tears, also stood frozen in place, feeling defeated. Before today, he had no idea how much Eva's death would affect Benjamin. When he woke up again, all Benjamin could see was the snow-white ceiling above him. Nicholas immediately advised him, "Benjamin, she's gone. Tormenting yourself won't bring Eva back." Benjamin's voice sounded hollow. "I know." Because he understood more than anyone else. He would rather be in pain than be awake. He didn't want to detach from a world without Eva. Nicholas fell silent and finally advised, "Just live your life well. On the road to the afterlife, she probably wouldn't want to see you." Benjamin covered his eyes, tears sliding bitterly to his lips. Yes, Eva was so stubborn. Once she made a decision, she would never look back. Just like how resolute she was when she loved him at first. And just like her decisiveness when she completely gave up on him later. Hari. After being discharged, Benjamin found out where Eva had last stayed in Kunming. He began to watch the red-billed seagulls day after day. Eva's final world, as seen through her eyes, was like this. Benjamin still returned to work at the company. Everything was the same as before, except he never stayed overnight at the office again. No matter how late it was, he would always go home. "Eva, I'm back." Silent with no reply. But he didn't mind. Clearly he hadn't thrown away any of Eva's things. They were all still there. However, the scent of Eva in the room was gradually disappearing day by day. Perhaps it was because the owner was no longer there. He lay on the bed. Tears silently slid down his face, once again. "It's okay," he thought. "Eva, this time it's my turn to wait for you." "What?" The doctor seemed not to hear my words clearly, so I repeated myself. 6 months after Eva's passing, I found her former treating physician. The doctor and I talked for a long time, and he explained in detail. There were no effective treatment options. Medication was just prolonging the inevitable. Due to individual differences in constitution, the development and manifestation of the disease vary among individuals. But what can be certain is that no matter what treatment method is used, the pain that ALS patients endure in the late stages is unimaginable to ordinary people. That day, it was the first time I shed tears in front of someone else. Later, I did a lot of research on my own. I completely fell apart. What's the difference between this disease and ancient forms of torture? Eva was diagnosed half a month after Amelia woke up. What was I doing at that time? I was busy with company matters, comforting Amelia, and accompanying her through rehabilitation. And after that, I rarely went home, rarely spent time with her. Often I hastily left her because of a phone call from Amelia. I didn't fail to notice the sadness and dimness in Eva's eyes each time. I didn't have time to contemplate what emotions were contained within, or perhaps I wasn't willing to delve deeper into those thoughts. Having Eva by my side was enough. Amelia and I were already in the past. Initially, it was just out of guilt. Eva didn't know, but I was probably half responsible for Amelia's accident after our argument and breakup. She had the accident while driving drunk after our fight. So, when Amelia woke up and asked me to accompany her through a year of rehabilitation, I softened my heart and agreed. Sometimes facing Amelia would bring back memories of the past, and indeed, occasionally, there would be a moment of confusion. But my feelings for Eva were genuine. I never thought of divorcing Eva. That's the truth, too. I fell in love with Eva, not because of her face resembling Amelia's. To me, they were nothing alike. The first time I met Eva, that stubborn, rebellious glint in her eyes struck my heart. That was the beginning of love at first sight. I thought Eva only minded my past with Amelia. Eva always went along with me. I thought she would never leave. If only I had been more perceptive, maybe everything would be different. In the end, it was simply that I didn't care enough about Eva. It took me nearly a year to find Eva. She didn't want to see me. To not disturb her recovery, I agreed to leave first. Little did I know, that was our last meeting. When I found Eva later, all she left me was a cold tombstone. Her smile on the tombstone was light and gentle. I can't remember the last time I saw her smile like that. Mia chose a great place. I think Eva would have loved it too. I visit Eva every week. I can spend a whole day in silence, just watching the sunrise and set. Suddenly, I always have this illusion that Eva is still by my side. One day, while tidying up the room, I saw 2 large photo albums stacked in the corner. I knew we took many photos during our travels, but I hardly looked at them, always seeing Eva flipping through them. One photo was left out, showing our last trip together. I turned over the photo, and it had Eva's handwriting. Next time, let's go to Nienke. My heart stung again. I remembered the last time she asked me to travel, the faint hope in her eyes. But in the end, I never agreed. In March of the second year after Eva's passing, I went to Nienke in Tibet alone. I knew why Eva wanted to go there. Nienke was beautiful. Peach blossoms covered the hills as far as the eye could see. Everywhere I looked, it was picturesque. Eva, spring has arrived,